Hey guys, this is Kelsey from the Arcane Library. Welcome, welcome. I am here today to give you just a quick rundown of our newest adventure that we're releasing, Crypts of Azarumme. Here we are. And I want to give you a quick walkthrough of this adventure and a couple maybe tips and some ideas behind why it is written the way it is, and hopefully that will be helpful as you run it. So to start off, this is a one-shot adventure for third-level players. This is the first one-shot that we've written, so it's a bit shorter than our other adventures, but it's meant to be played through in hopefully about 4 to, on the outside, 6 hours if the players manage to hit every single thing to do in this adventure. So, one night of gaming, hopefully. So here we are. Let me give you the quick rundown on what this looks like and what you'll have. You're always going to have a table of contents that explain the different encounters, maps, and all the appendices. So just the outline of this particular adventure. So the players will start off in a city or town. It can be whichever one works for your game world, just as long as it's able to have a decently large church to a good deity. In this adventure, it is the Church of Saint Tyrannis, a good aligned deity, but you can replace that with any god in your setting or any other that you prefer. So what happens here is the players will be contacted by the head acolyte of the Church of Saint Tyrannis, and his name is Tyrannis, and he is worried because the priest of the church has actually been missing for a couple days. And he's trying not to let things spin out of control at the church, but he's worried and he needs somebody to help him figure out what happened. So the plot hooks or the adventure hooks are centered around getting the players to the church to talk with him, because that's where the adventure is going to kick off and hopefully spin out to its resolution. So we have the beginning here, a missing priest, and we have, of course, we have the 3 adventure hooks that you guys might come to expect from us: appeal to reward, to heroism, or discovery. They will either be Tyrannis reaching out to the players with an offer or a plea for help, and maybe with a little bit of information, because he knows that Father Baird, who is the missing priest, recently discovered a well buried under some stuff in the undercroft of the church, and Father Baird told Tyrannis not to really mention it to anyone, especially not the acolytes, because they might choose to explore on their own to try to prove how heroic they are. They might dare each other to go down the well, and it just doesn't seem like a good idea. So Father Baird himself decided to go down the well to figure out what might be going on. And that's basically the core of the adventure. What is actually happening here is that Father Baird did go down the well with good intentions, but while he was down there, he discovered an ancient artifact called a Whisper Skull, and it had some persuasive influence over him, and he managed to, or did not manage to, resist its temptations, and he became a conduit for its power and is now enacting evil things in the crypts underneath the church. So when the players get to the church, they're going to have their first encounter, which takes place as they're there, called They Came From Below. What happens is Father Baird has sent some of his minions up through the well to try to collect some victims for rituals that the Whisper Skull demands of him. So while the players are there, a bunch of ghast and ghouls erupt from underneath the church, its back rooms, and attack the main room. And you'll see here that you have the map for the church. This also comes as a virtual tabletop map. And this encounter is actually keyed to be deadly or past deadly. The reason for that is in this one shot, there are only 2 actual combat encounters, this one and the final encounter. So the encounters need to be a little more difficult to account for player resources and to make sure that we're kind of presenting them something that's actually challenging to do instead of a cakewalk. That said, this adventure could get really brutal, and it's not meant to be end-to-end combat. These creatures are appearing, and their goal is to collect acolytes and retreat. So the combat itself, the ghast and ghouls will retreat on the 3rd round, and hopefully the fact that it's very deadly isn't necessarily going to mean the players have to die. but the point is to make it feel very overwhelming. Now, I've had some people tell me that their groups in playtesting actually did manage to triumph in this combat, which is totally possible. It's not strictly necessary. Like, the outcome does not have to be that acolytes get kidnapped. The adventure can go on without that. It's just supposed to be an impetus to get the players involved and to realize that there's a problem here. So if that happens, good on your players, and then you may want to adjust the adventure a bit down the road. There will be a point where the players encounter 2 dying acolytes. You may want to just replace them with wayward townsfolk or people who have been reported missing very recently, just to have someone there to fill in for that encounter. So once the players survive, hopefully this situation, they will then hopefully want to actually go down the well and really figure out what's happening here. So then we have the down the well section. This is a slight wink to Frog God Games, because one of their most famous mega dungeons begins with players going down the well. So that was my little Easter egg in here. The players will have certain areas that they can explore. So you see that there is a sort of worked area that's actually more of a crypt, and then there's some catacombs. So if the players decide to go through this door, there's sort of a puzzle there. Like the crypt section itself is kind of keyed towards information gathering and sort of some puzzles or some things to get the players thinking. They're not really riddles or outright puzzles. I'm more of a fan of scenarios that present an unusual solution, or the players have to really investigate and put a couple things together to overcome those situations. It's not like a, line the runes up correctly and then you can get through the door. It's more of a figure out how this door actually opens, because there's a reasonable way to do it. So the players will hopefully make some discoveries there, start to figure out the nature of this place, and also keep in mind that there is an effect that is ongoing while the players are inside the catacombs. Again, because there's not a lot of combat in this, there is instead some effects that take place while the players are down there as a way to sort of drain some of their resources and make sure that they're actually not in 100% pristine condition as they get through these combat encounters. So there is the Corrupt the Living table. For each hour the players are down there, they each roll once on this table, and they gain a negative or maybe negative positive effect that just makes being down there more challenging and sort of inspires them hopefully to not linger and to move quickly and not have to spend, many hours down there. So the players will have a few routes they can go. Again, this is the room of the final encounter. It's possible that they may just kind of, through luck, wind their way there first, and if that happens, that's okay. The goal isn't to create like a cattle chute where they have to get through all of the bits of the dungeon in order to reach the boss, because that would make their exploration not matter in that case. So yes, that may happen, and if it does, feel free to key up the final encounter a little bit more. I would make sure that Father Barrett has taken at least one lair action in preparation. He likely would have heard them coming. Or toss in 1 or 2 extra enemy combatants from the start, just to account for the fact that the players are kind of at full tank. So if that doesn't happen, if the players do explore further down here, they have a chance to encounter 2 dying acolytes who have been drained of nearly all their blood. They're on their final death saving throw. So the dramatic question of the encounter with them is, can the players save these acolytes? If they do, they're rewarded with some information about what's going on, and that's the place where you would want to maybe insert some wayward townsfolk if the ghouls did not manage to really capture any acolytes in the first encounter. And then finally, there's a place where the players can find a little tomb with some treasure in it if they look, and note that there are also sinkholes around. Those are more like environmental hazards. There's actually a ghoul that fell down into this one. Wait, was it a ghast? I always get them confused. There's an undead monster in the sinkhole here that might just be something of interest to the players. It can't get out, so who knows what they'll do in response to that, but they have opportunities to interact with that creature. So once the players are moving on towards this final encounter, up here, you will move on to Crypt of the Fallen. This is the Whisper Skull, the ancient artifact that has been causing all of this mayhem that Father Baird is currently kind of a slave to. What does the skull command? So, this is the encounter where it will be revealed, if the players haven't put it together, that Father Baird is the person instigating all of this trouble. When the players get there, Father Baird has some lair actions. He may have taken one, which would be to summon some skeletal assistants from the tombs and crypts around this room. The combat is, again, keyed to be pretty hard. It's deadly, again, because the players will probably be at mid to full resources for this fight. So they will probably go Nova in this fight and go all out. They may try to persuade Father Baird to snap out of it and quit his evil ways. That's up to the DM. The Whisper Skull is the artifact kind of controlling Father Baird, and I did not make any fast and hard game rules for it. I kind of gave a loose outline of what it does because I want it to be a plot device DMs could use again down the road, or shape to their setting, and have it be a little flexible. So it's possible, if the DM chooses, that the players could try to break the spell that this thing has over him. And finally, if the players destroy the Whisper Skull, it has an armor class and hit points. If they do destroy it during this combat, which would be a wise tactic, then the creatures it created and the control it has over Father Baird would be undone. So that's another route they could go. And one thing that's fun to note, the ghast and ghouls that are created by the Whisper Skull are more intelligent than normal. So one thing that they may try to do is, there are sinkholes in that final room, and they probably will try to grab players and grapple them together and fall down a sinkhole, which would be a pretty exciting and kind of cool problem to introduce during combat. So I hope that last combat with those guys is exciting, has a lot of options for the DM, and then once that's completed, the adventure itself is pretty much taken care of. So the players will hopefully have triumphed. They can move on to Aftermath. We talk about what will happen to the church now that Father Baird is either disgraced or destroyed. And also the Whisper Skull. What if the players don't destroy it? What if they try to keep it and use it? What other things is worth knowing about the Whisper Skull? What things should the DM have in mind? So, and then finally some future adventure hooks if the DM wants to spin this out into something larger. So that's the whole story. If you guys check this adventure out, let me know. I hope that it makes for some fun gaming, and it was really fun to write. We'll probably be making more of these one-shot style adventures since people have been asking for them. And that's the whole story. So we'll see you guys at the Arcane Library. All right, bye.